This came to my awareness when, after being with my current partner for years in, so she saw a lot of my cycles, I was losing my shit about, long story, but around my cat who I could not find.
Oh,
But
wow.
the way I was behaving was like, I was off the wall. I was screaming. I was out of character. I'm not that way typically. And like, similar to you, it's like, where the hell did all that come
Yeah.
from?
Yeah.
And afterward, and as a lot of us do, I felt bad about myself. I felt bad that I said the things I did to her. And when I offered an apology, this was once I calmed down, when we can have access, right? Brought to the table my sorry, my apology. And she said to me, "That's okay. This was a really pivotal statement. I actually don't think you really meant it." And that really struck with me, because she spoke to something inside that was true in that moment, that I didn't really mean it. And I really began to look at that and dive into that. And so when do we know our inner child? When we're activated, when we're having a really big feeling, is a great time to look. When I'm saying this, I hope no one's hearing me say that we shouldn't feel about anything. Of course, we have limits. When we're violated, we're going to have a big feeling that we should look at.
Oh, yeah.
Now the question is, though, right? What are the patterns? Are we always having big feelings around the same sort of specific incident? And when you look, typically you are, because it's not actually out of nowhere. Once we observe ourselves and we tell on ourselves, what we come to find is happening behind the scenes is some of us are repeating a dialogue around it in our actual mind and our thoughts. These things that are happening from the moment we open our eyes to the moment we close them at night. Don't believe me, go look, pay attention to how you're thinking, what you're thinking. You're going to see that I call them narratives, because they're so goddamn the same. You have them, right? So you might be surprised when you blow up, but if you start to pay attention, maybe it's not as much of a surprise, because you've been priming yourself for it. You've been repeating or assigning meanings to things that are happening in your life. So by 5 p.m. when you're screaming at your partner, you might have had 10 confirmations of your feeling throughout the day that you weren't even aware of.
Oh, yeah.
So we need to begin to observe those things. And like I said, what patterns in our thinking. We tend to tell ourselves stories about ourselves, about others, about our world, about our relationship, about our past, about our future. They tend to be very patterned. Look at those. Look when you're feeling those activations. When you have a really big feeling, begin to watch and then see the patterns come into place. And then most of us can begin to understand kind of how and why they develop.
So what's the first step someone can take to start becoming more aware of these patterns?
Observation, right? First and foremost, learning how to watch yourself, right? That's different from I wake up and I go into my autopilot that's going to run my day, right? Some of it is pattern interrupting, right? So practical tools, set alarms on your phone, reminders. When that alarm goes off, check in with yourself. What am I doing? What am I thinking? What am I feeling? The more data points you have, you begin to now create a story. And you might be surprised. Some of you might not. Some of you might be surprised to see how patterned you are, to see that every time that alarm goes off, you're doing more or less the same thing. Maybe you're thinking more or less the same narrative story. Maybe you're feeling more or less the same way. So self-observation is really where we begin to create space for a new what's next, for a new future story that's different than our past.